Hey everyone, this is Britt with Integrative PT, going through some basic strength training exercises for gardeners. Now, a couple of tips. None of these should be painful. It's okay to feel that muscle burn, but if you feel like it's aggravating a muscle or a joint, then we need to go on to something different. Second, I'm going to give you some options how you may use either body weight for some of them, if you have some weights available, or even if you have a resistance band available. And then for each of these, maybe start with something you feel like you could do anywhere from a couple of sets of 10 to 12 repetitions with that. We're not looking for exhaustion, but you want to feel like you're getting a little bit of a muscle burn. So to start, we want to work on big things like our leg muscles to help with getting up and down. So a great one is sit to stands. So I've got a bench here. We're just going to sit down and stand back up. So back and forth. If you need to use your hands, that's okay, but we're going to try to do as much as we can without the use of the hands. If you feel like that's pretty easy, then we can just tap down, but not sit all the way down. So I'm just tapping rather than sitting all the way down. If you also want a little more of a challenge, you could hold a weight. I'm going to take this kettlebell here, and we could sit down and stand back up, just holding a little bit of weight as you do so. The second exercise, we're going to go with deadlifts. So we're always going to be picking stuff up, so we want to make sure we're strong with that. So for our movement, we want to have our knees just slightly bent, shoulders pulled back, and we're just going to bend over as far as until you start to feel a little bit of a tug in the back of the legs or the hips. So in this case, I'm going to show you with weights. I've got a couple of dumbbells here. My knees are bent, and I'm just bending over. My bottom goes back. You almost think it's like you're trying to shut a car door with your bottom. So we send our hips back. My arms are staying close to my legs. Back and forth. My back staying straight. I'm bending through my hips. So you can do that if you have some dumbbells. If you have a kettlebell, you could take one and go back and forth. Or if you just have a resistance band, we can take a resistance band, stand on top of it, grab some tension on each end, and do the same thing there. Making sure that when you come up nice and tall, and then back down. The third exercise we've got, our step up. So here I have just an exercise step that I purchased. If you have steps at home, you can do that. The simplest thing is propping a foot up, stepping up, and back down. Now you can take your foot off and step back up each time, or you can just keep it up there and step up. If you need to hold on to something, that's okay. Or if you feel like, hey, that's pretty easy, I need an added challenge, you could either get a higher step, or again, we could take some weights, hold on to it, and do a weighted step up here. Whatever you feel the most comfortable with doing and that you feel offers you a little bit of a challenge. So we do that with each leg. The next one we have are just calf raises. So again, this is one that we can generally add some weight to, but starting first, again, if balance should not be an issue with this, so if you need to hold on to a wall or a countertop, that's fine. We're going to go up and down on your tiptoes, trying to get as high as you can. We're trying to get those heels as high up off the ground as you can each time. And this is another one that if you feel like, hey, that's not too hard, grab some weights again. We're going to hold them here, going up and down on your tiptoes as high as you can each time. So from there, we're going to go on to biceps curls. So we're always picking up stuff. If you want to pick up a pot, if you're trying to dig with the shovel, if you're trying, to carry some soil, we want to make sure that our arms are strong. So doing them with dumbbells, we're just going to do simple curls. We want to stand up tall. Want to have one foot maybe in front of the other or forward relative to the other, just to kind of counterbalance the movement. Going back and forth, feeling the work here in the biceps. Holding on to the weights, we can then go into some shoulder raises. So taking lighter weights if you need to, lifting up and back down, in front, back and forth, And again, I think it's easiest to have one leg forward relative to the other just to counterbalance it. Now for both of those, for both the bicep curl and the shoulder raises, if you just have a band available, we could stand on the band and do your biceps curls that way. We could even do your shoulder raises that way. And you know, if your band, you feel like, hey, that's a lot of tension, standing and doing both, stretching it that far with both hands, do one at a time. So that way you can offer a little less resistance. We can do one bicep curl or one arm at a time, and same thing, we can do one shoulder raise at a time. So from there, the last one we have a row, and there's different variations for doing the rows here, but if we're talking about bending over and picking something up, we can use the dumbbells here, and we could do one at a time. You could rest your hand on a countertop, on a piece of furniture, on a bench, or even on your leg. We're gonna hold the weight. We wanna pull up until your elbow is close to your side. We're not trying to get your hand here. We wanna go to the elbows close to the side, bent about 90 degrees, and just squeezing. You want to then squeeze your shoulder blade back towards your spine. So it should look like that, or you can have your hand resting to support your body there. If you don't have the weight, if you prefer to use a band, then we can just stand on the band and do the same thing, just a bent over row with the band. Finally, we're gonna go into some balance drills. We could do single leg stance, so just practicing standing on one leg. Starting, you know, if you need to stand near something to kind of keep a hand on a wall or a piece of furniture to help with balance, that's fine. But we're just trying to balance there, working towards building towards 30 seconds. So you kind of figure out where you're starting at, and we'll try building up. So we go for about 30 seconds per leg. And then there's other ways to try to challenge that more, but for now we're just gonna work on just trying to balance on one leg. The other one is just what we call a tandem stand, where you put heel to toe. So standing with your heel up against your toe, trying to balance there for 30 seconds again. Want you to be safe, so if you need to stand close to a wall, a countertop, piece of furniture to steady yourself, that's perfectly fine, but we would aim for about 30 seconds per foot position. So try those. If there's any problems or any pain, certainly we don't want to do that, but try them out. And these, if you do them maybe twice a week, we'd probably start to see a lot of benefit out of that.